Hello, I wanted to make this quick video to showcase some of the features on the Igniter 2 soundboard. So I've recently finished an install on this and I spent a while digging through the manual and asking questions of people who know a bit more than me about these things, and it seems to be a really cool soundboard, and I thought it might be worth putting something together for somebody who doesn't have hours and hours to read up about these things. You'll have to excuse me, I'm out of breath, I've been rushing around, but let's get to it. So, okay, one of the things that I really liked about this is it's got something called dual phase. Now, what that does is it lets, it's designed to switch between one colour to another colour, so A and B if you will. And the way it works is you just twist the hilt gently and it changes the colour of the hilt. Now, the problem with this one, sorry, the blade. The problem with this one is not the problem, but it's only got blues in there, so it's not necessarily going to change the color. Because I've got white in there, but I don't really like white as a secondary color, so I've tweaked the dual phase feature so that what it actually does is normally it plays a sound from the font's dual folder. There's a folder in every NEC font called Dual, D-U-A-L. So in there you'll find there's files called, they're in the naming format of Dual A01 and Dual A02 and then Dual B01 and B02. So I've looked at Nigon's videos on this feature, and the basics are that you need to have, those are sound files, just to back up a little bit, those are sound files that play whenever you twist. So you need to have at least one A and one B file for it to work, but you can have more than an even number of A's and B's as well. So you can have two A's and one B. But the idea is that when you twist, it plays one of those sounds, and then it changes the color accordingly. Now the color can be configured in the Igniter, or probably the Spark Color 2 config editor under the tab for DP, so that's dual phase. So you can choose the secondary color on there for each font. So I apologize, I don't have like everything in front of me to show you, but I'm doing this from memory, and I'm pretty sure that this is what these things are called. So that's dual phase, and then it's got twist activation. So it's got three types of activation. It's got a single switch activation. Take out the kill key, that might help. So boot sound, switch activation. It has swing activation as well, so if I was to swing it, it could activate, but there's an option under one of the tabs in the config editor to choose the type of activation, and you can actually have, I think you can have all three types, and the other type is this one. So you'll notice that played a Luke Skywalker quote from The Force Awakens, and that's because. So what it's trying to do there is it's trying to change the color of the blade using dual phase, but because I've only got one color set up and the color in the DP tab of the Igniter config is the same color as my blade color, it doesn't actually change the color of the blade. But it does activate the dual phase feature, and then it goes into the font files, looks for the dual folder, and it plays one of the sounds from in there. And you guessed it, the sounds inside there are those quotes. So you can have as many quotes as you want, and you can configure the twist action in the config as well to make it more sensitive or less sensitive. There are two parameters on the motion tab at the bottom that define how sensitive it is. I believe the first one is how easy it is for it to, or how hard or how easy you have to, how aggressive you have to twist it for it to ignite. And the second value is how still you have to have the hilt. So if it's got a lower number, then that means you can't really have it shaking around like this and also twist it. And if it's got a higher number, it's quite strict about it only letting the twist work when it's completely flat like that, and there's no movement in any other direction. So you can mess with those settings and tweak them, but I found that for the first one 50 is about right, and for the second one about 120, and it makes it easier to use. So that's a dual phase. Another feature I found is it's got an FX, Saber FX or something like that. So every NEC font comes with something called a folder called FX, and your font might not have stuff in there, but most of them from my experience do. And what's inside it is it doesn't really matter. There can be any WAV file as long as they're named FX01, FX02 and so on. And again, in the config editor there's a FX tab this time, and it's got a button saying a tick box that's called Enable Saber FX. Once you've clicked on that, the feature's enabled, but there's a little bit more that you have to do. There's only 3 sliders there, and the first slider, I'm doing this from memory again, so the first slider is called something about hum. So it's got a number from sort of 0 to 99, and the higher the number, the more likely it is to pick a sound from the FX folder and play it when it's on idle mode or hum mode. So an example of that, I've got another font here that I've added something to. Not that one. Let's go through it right at the end. There we go. There. So now it's on idle or hum mode. Because I've got Saber FX on, every so often it's going into the folder and it's finding the FX file, and it's got a percentage chance of playing. That percentage I've set to fairly low. I think I've got it on 10% or something. I don't think it's actually a percent, but the lower the number, the less likely it is to play. So you'll notice there that it played a breathing sound. All the FX sounds in this folder are currently breathing sounds, so they're different types of breathing, but it plays them at random. So again, now the second tab in the the second slider on the FX tab, sorry, is something about the I can't remember the exact name for it, but what it does is on an action. So an action can be a clash, not that. So it can be one of those. It can be a swing. It can't be just having it on hum. But again, that's another slider 0 to 99, and the higher the number, the more likely it is just to play a sound from the FX folder on a clash. And what you just heard there, and again, is the third slider. The third slider is to do with when it's completely off. I think that's called, what's it being called? It's not idle, I can't remember the name. It's the last slider in the list anyway, and as long as the board has power, every so often it's looking into that config, and it's based on that setting value, it's playing one of the sounds in the FX folder, and that will continue until it goes into deep sleep. So that's something you can play with, and you can leave that as it is, as sort of a pre-on feature as well. So I guess when you change to the font, so I've just changed to the font, for example, you can leave it, and it's got a chance of playing whatever sounds you have in the FX folder. So there are 2 really nice features of the Igniter board that I've found, and combined you can do some really, really interesting things.
Useless to resist. The Force is with you, young Skywalker. But you're not a Jedi yet.
And then you've got this feature that most people know about, Saber Cinema. So you can still do blasters, lockups. It doesn't do any sounds. Sorry, it doesn't. Dual phase doesn't It does.
But should I yet?
I stand corrected. So a lot of the features are still there while it's playing Saber Cinema. You need to turn it on, you just hold it. So yeah, that's a collection of features that I found quite cool. And I mean, you can combine things. So for example, I've got quotes set up so that when I twist it, it plays a quote. But actually I can have a quote as a percentage of the time on something like that. Something else I did.
No. Essence.
So on this one, I've got a really low percentage on the third slider. So the first two sliders are on 0. So there's no chance of any FX sounds playing when it's on or when I'm clashing and things like that. But
Close your eyes.
there you go. So that's a speech
Feel
from
it.
The Force Awakens.
The light.
It might become annoying after a while, but
It's
I thought it was
always
quite
been
cool just to have on there as
It will guide you.
a sort of Easter egg, if you will.
The saber. Take it.
I don't mind if I do.
Hello there.
That's an Obi quote I've got on there. But you get the idea. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and it's an awesome board. If any of you are looking at the NEC boards, I highly recommend the Igniter. I had a Spark 2 before,
Feel it.
and okay, Maz.
Father's son.
I had a Spark 2 before, and it's a great board. It's got 3 accent LEDs, and you can add quotes to the blaster sounds, but there's no twisting or dual phase or anything sort of that fancy. But it's a great entry level board. I just wanted to upgrade to this one because I really like the extra set of features. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope you've learned something. Thank you for watching.